Those opposing it say it gives the police too much powers to even infringe on the inherent rights of Ugandans, including those of conscience and association. But the authorities insist that in order for Uganda to have peace when assemblies or public meetings are organized, there is need to have a legal framework that gives responsibilities to those involved, especially the organizers. It is also true that even in many democracies that Ugandans like to emulate, there are rules or guidelines that deal with public assemblies. In the recent past, police has clashed with demonstrators, leading to loss of lives and property, as they disagreed on how to proceed. It is anticipated that the country might face similar or even bigger challenges of public order as we move towards the 2016 general elections, with the police asking for up to 30 billion shillings to buy tear gas and, well, rubber bullets. So tonight we look at the latest from Parliament on the bill and why human rights activists are bitterly opposed to it. Now, our attempts to get authorities to join us in this discussion today were futile, even through the government media center. Well, in the studio we have two guests. Honorable Gerald Karuhanga, Western Uganda Youth MP. You're most welcome, Honorable Karuhanga.
Thank you, Edmond, and good evening, listeners.
We are also joined by Mr. Muhamed Ndifuna, Chief Executive Officer of HURINET. HURINET is the Human Rights Network. You're most welcome, Mr. Ndifuna.
Thank you, and good evening, listeners.
Honorable Karuhanga, can you give us an outline of this Public Order Management Bill?
Yeah, well, the Public Order Management Bill basically is a bill that has become extremely controversial, which is largely intended to grant powers to police to control and largely man the affairs of everybody in public, including whether 2 or 3 people can actually sit somewhere and have a conversation. That should be a matter of police. That's what this bill is intended to achieve. It's largely a very unfortunate bill because the proposals in it are not only unconstitutional, as already declared by the Constitutional Court in the Muhamed case, but it goes to denying the basic rights. I mean, look, it's basically, summarily, this bill is about how people should associate. That how 2 or 3 people or more can meet together. Now, they have even dropped the number, meaning it can be 2. Originally,
previously it was 3.
Yes, originally it was 3.
Now 2.
Now they are saying no. Any.
3 is a big crowd.
So they are saying any meeting of persons. So meaning it can be 2, it can be 3, it can be any number. That should be a matter of police to determine as to whether you should meet, where you should meet, and
for how long.
And for how long. So now I find it quite. This is not only draconian, it's archaic, it's barbaric, it's actually uncouth. There was one. You have a constitutional provision that empowers Ugandans to associate freely, well enshrined under Chapter 4 of our Constitution, detailed. Then from there, on the other hand, you even have a constitutional court ruling in the case of Mwanga Chivumbi that practically clearly states that police will not have any powers to disallow or allow an association of people. And here you come, you walk to Parliament confidently as the government. You know about all this because since 1995, the same government that promulgated the Constitution is still the same government we have now. Now, from there, you still have the same fellows. When this court ruling was done, they know about it. They walked Parliament with the same proposal that they know is largely unconstitutional. And you're saying, wait a minute, is this meant to be diversionary? And there are issues we want to deal with. We don't want to talk about the poverty in this country, the unemployment of the youth, the bad roads, the inadequacies in the education system, the poor facilities we have in our health sector. Why do we keep bringing? I keep saying this is intended to preoccupy Parliament. Because if it's not about the marriage and divorce bill, then it's about the miniskirts, then it's about the public. Because what government is seeking that police does is what police is already doing. If you try to demonstrate today, they forget that that's a constitutional right, and they will come in to actually, they don't even stop, they disorganize. In fact, it has been I have been involved in a number of demonstrations. They are largely peaceful until police actually comes in.
Well, but police comes in to prevent it turning rowdy sometimes.
I don't think that actually, because you see, whenever you are demonstrating, you are even encouraging the people around you to move with you, those who can. Yes. So there is no way you can be rowdy. It is only police when they come in.
Flood.
Sorry?
You're building up momentum, you drag people along with you as you go forward.
Yes, but you see, those who don't choose to join you, you leave them. You leave them to go on. But what happens? Not until police has shown up with its tear gas, with the I don't know how, the chemicals, because you can't say it's water.
It's called pepper spray.
No, there's the pepper spray, but there are the chemicals.
Something else.
The liquid that they spray, which purple, pink, and I don't know, weird colors of water. I saw when it was being sprayed.
None of it is yellow.
Leaders of UPC. Maybe we are yet to see the yellow, and it could be even much more dangerous. But of course, the spirit behind it is yellow. Now, so I've been trying to figure out what is other than trying to fail the opposition and also eat up the little space that has remained. What else are they trying to achieve? Because whatever is proposed in this bill is what actual police does today.
But it should be a good bill, because if they are saying we shall have 2 or 3 people need a policeman, then I can be assured of a policeman at my home. I don't need to pay a private security guard.
No, that's
security
not
guaranteed.
That's not what necessarily it means. It means if you are going to meet
at the dining table
and talk about anything, government policy or politics, that's when you should notify police.
That should be every night at dinner time. I should have a permanent presence of police at my house.
No, actually, I mean, that means that for any church gathering, you probably need to notify police. Of course, they are trying to give all sorts of definitions of what a public place is. Then, there are so many weird proposals. For instance, public address system. That for it to use a public address system, you notify police. For heaven's sake, they use public address systems in lecture rooms, at birthday parties. Almost even there are these small hotels where you find a public address system in rooms for karaoke and what have you. Now, so is that? I think that this bill, one, is intended to eat up space, the democratic space for the opposition and those who may have dissenting views from the city government. 2, it is intended to send fear. But we know we have the numbers in parliament, and therefore we can actually eat up all the space. We can use the laws to force you to a given line. We can coerce using the laws, however unconstitutional they may be.
What happened in parliament today before we move here from Muhamed?
Today parliament, again another drama. The politics of our country are not short of the theatrics. Today, you have a Minister of Internal Affairs, who is, of course, the proponent of this bill, comes in his usual disorganized manner, brings another proposal of amendments, and we're saying, wait a minute, amendments are taken to the committee. We are now at another reading, we're at another stage. He says, no, I agreed with the chairman of the Legal and Parliamentary Committee. And the chairman is like, no, I asked Honorable Fox Odoi, sitting, I was away, sitting for me. Fox, of course, wasn't in the house at the moment. Now, there was confusion. How do we move from here? And this is not the first time. Every time they keep bringing in more proposals, more amendments, because they realize that even the proposals they have are weird in a way. So what happened eventually? The speaker said, no, this is unacceptable. We cannot have amendments being presented by the minister at this stage. And ordinarily, the procedure would be that when a bill becomes too controversial at such a stage where we are passing clause by clause, it is sent to a specialized committee of parliament by way of moving a motion, and then that specialized committee is so specialized in a way that parliament then constitutes it. So it's not an existing committee.
Right.
Yeah, it's more or less like an ad hoc committee which is created for a given purpose. And that was not done. The speaker found the presentations of the minister wanting, and he chose to defer it tomorrow after.
So you talk about it tomorrow.
Yeah.
Mr. Muhamed Ndifuna, why are you people opposed to this bill? It's supposed to improve our security.
Ostensibly, yes. Especially when you look at the objectives, you may get the impression that is the purpose. The devil is in the details. When you begin looking at the provisions of this law, you are bothered and perturbed by some of the provisions. I'll give some instances arising from this bill. The bill seeks to shift responsibility of policing from the police to the organizers of events. For example, one of the provisions provides that the organizer of an event must ensure that persons participating in the event are not armed, and also that persons participating in the event do not make utterances that contravene existing laws. Now, that is a tall order. First, organizers of events are ordinary citizens in this country that have not been trained in security management. Yet, clearly, our Constitution and the Police Act stipulates the duties and responsibility of the police, which include keeping law and order, prevention of crime. So to seek to shift that responsibility from the police to the ordinary citizen is trying to make the responsibility of organizing an event so burdensome and challenging and
people
forget it. And then the other is that if you organize an event and for one reason or another it turns rowdy and the third parties suffer loss, you, the organizer, will take
compensate.
Yes, and we know situations that have arisen where persons that spring up from the woods come and disorganize events.
Some with chiboko, some with
things like that. So clearly, we can see a situation where that clause is abused. And then also in the same bill, there is a provision that seeks to give legitimacy to unfettered application of force without regulatory framework for it.
Can you read that for us? The one that gives unfettered access or permit to use force, any amount of force to break up. Well, if you can't find it, you can give it to us. Now outline it for us, give it to us from your memory.
Okay. What our concern is that there are international guidelines that provide for application or use of force. From the general point of view, it must be reasonable, and it must be in an upgradable
you don't
just jump and use maximum force.
Right.
So the absence of a provision that limits or even regulate the extent to which force can be used is omnibus. And then the other concern that we have relates to the appeal mechanism, which actually defeats the purpose of appealing. For example, if an authorized officer acting on behalf of the IGP disallows your event, and this bill provides that you can appeal within 14 days.
14 days, yes.
Remember, some of these events
could be an introduction.
And some actually spontaneous events or events that seek to take advantage of opportunities that arise.
Like which ones? Walk to work?
Well, it may not necessarily be that, but you may, for example, you may be celebrating on the eve of an event, on the eve of something. It could be even an anniversary that is time specific.
Give us some meat on that still.
Let's say
spontaneous.
Okay. Let's begin with the
right.
They're like specific. You mark it following a specific day.
Yes.
And so you notify the police, and they say you will not have it.
Oh, then you can, 14 days the day will have come and gone.
It will have come and gone. It's tied, specific. So our concern is with the appeal mechanism. 14 days to the IGP. Remember, the officer is simply an agent of the IGP in this case.
Yes.
So it is as good as the IGP disallowing you. So in other words, it is providing that if you are not happy with my decision, you can appeal to me. I mean,
the tenets of justice.
And then, well, if you are not happy with the decision of the IGP, still the bill provides that within 30 days you can make an appeal to the High Court. Now, in effect, you are looking at 45 days. Yeah. So this defeats natural justice and fair hearing, and the appeal mechanism is erroneous.
All right, so how much of it is acceptable, if at all? Is it something,
Well, in my view, this bill is replete with provisions that are inconsistent with the Constitution, with the human rights standards, and the provisions that exist in other laws. For example,
so it's redundant.
Yeah, it is redundant. So you could see that the ultimate purpose is simply to reintroduce Section 32 of the Police Act that was declared null and void by the Constitutional Court. So, because in effect,
is that allowed in the Constitution? If something has been struck of the statute book, can you bring it back, or is that breaking the law itself?
Well, of course, it is unfortunate because you can't do it. That is like a retrospective legislation. You are trying to the Constitutional Court has made an interpretation of the Constitution and saying ordinarily this is unconstitutional, and that's it, and that becomes a position of law. Now, Parliament can't be seen subsequently to deviate from that position or try to bring it up again. The only way they can do it is by amending the Constitution itself for it not to be constitutional. So it's a very futile bill. Indeed, like he has put it, we have all these other provisions that they are trying to introduce. The ones that are reasonable, they are already in the existing laws. Now, but what they had to do was to pick them from the existing laws, so that they address these bad ones, which are largely unconstitutional. So, and that's why we think this is very unfortunate. It's not necessary. The only country that we know that has a Public Order Management Act or law is Zimbabwe.
Oh,
yeah. So that's the only country. So this is actually, it tells you where we are moving to. And this government has been around for 27 years.
Only 27 years.
Oh, no, well, I don't know.
We still have 3 years to go.
No, 27 years. How come it's at this point that they think they should bring such a law? What is it intended to achieve?
The victories are getting bigger, they need protection.
No, it is the fear. The government is fearing the people. Let me tell you, for the first time we are seeing a government so fearful of its people that they are even worried when you begin having a conversation when you are 2 or 3 people. Can you imagine? What a government. Because seriously, I get so concerned that this can be as bad as even barring people who are dating. That those of us who are not yet married,
yes,
yeah, if you are going to,
you need a police permit.
Yes, that's probably maybe
go and sit in front of a total with
yes,
at that fountain.
Yes, and if you are going to have a cup of tea with the intended partner, then you may have to first notify Kiora that
maybe wear it around your neck.
But sir, I have intentions of having
a third party license.
And there is a specific provision within the Constitution which bars Parliament from passing a law
which has been declared unconstitutional.
Which has the effect of altering a judgment
by the Constitutional Court. I thought so too.
Yeah.
Well, listeners, this is Spectrum on Radio 1. We're taking a break right now. We'll be back to stay tuned.
MTN introduces Freebie Fridays. Get 50% MTN bonus airtime on Friday recharges of 1,000 and more. You can use your Freebie Friday airtime for calling and SMSing all MTN numbers on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Dial *162# to join. Welcome to the new world with Freebie Fridays.
MTN, everywhere you go.
Officer, this time I'm going to throw away all my pangas and knives because you said they help in transmitting the banana bacterial wilt disease.
Take heart. If you've learned them, you can still use them. The banana bacterial wilt is transmitted by insects such as the stingless bees that visit male birds to feed on sap that oozes out when the banana flower fall as the insects feed. They also bring in the bacteria that enter the banana plant through the wounds left behind when flowers fall. To stop the spread of insects, remove the male birds as soon as the last cluster is formed, whether you have the disease or not. Because removing the male bird using a pruning knife spreads the disease, use a fork stick.
This message is brought to you by National Agriculture Research Organization, NARO, together with National Agricultural Advisory Services, NADS.
Legitimate whiskey is different. I am proud that we can now enjoy quality and taste. And style too. I have not felt so original with the liveliness I get each morning after I enjoy legitimate whiskey. Everything seems to be going my way. This is a worthy discovery. Legitimate whiskey is blended from carefully selected Scotch malt, giving it a golden amber appearance with a silky smooth and soothing taste for lasting satisfaction. Legitimate whiskey, a masterfully crafted blend, expertly blended, lighter and styled whiskey. Please enjoy responsibly.
Spectrum on Radio 1 FM 90.
Welcome back on Spectrum. Tonight, Parliament takes a stand on the controversial Public Order Management Bill amidst concerns by human rights activists. Do we need such a law in Uganda as we get closer to the next polls? Our guests tonight, Honorable Gerald Karuhanga, Western Uganda Youth MP, and Mr. Muhamed Ndifuna, Chief Executive Officer of the Human Rights Network-HURINET. You will be able to call in at some stage and talk about this matter together with our guests tonight. Muhamed, what kind of public order management should we have? What kind of law managing public order? We can't just stay there.
Of course, we can have a dispensation that rests on a law that is facilitative, that is regulatory rather than prohibitive. The kind of law that is proposed is a prohibitive law that has many clawbacks effect on basic human rights, and yet the Constitution is very clear in terms of circumstances under which limitations to the fundamental and basic human rights can occur, and they must essentially be justifiable in a democratic society. And when we look at the provisions in this bill, there are problems. But in effect, we're not saying that there should be no regulation. All we are saying is that the regulations should be facilitative, should be enabling. Yeah, and but what we see here is a law that seeks to prohibit the enjoyment of basic human rights that have been provided for by the Constitution.
Give us a paint for us a picture at the extreme. When you stretch, what can happen? Suppose we get a bad ruler, not the one that we love so much. Suppose we get a bad ruler. What can they do with this law?
In effect, of course, even a bad ruler will not arrest everybody. What a bad ruler will do would arrest and make it difficult for those that he perceives to be a threat to self.
Let's look at the worst case scenario. What can they do with this bad man?
A bad man can,
using this law, what can they do?
Using this law, can arrest the opposition, for example, and the other civic activists. Can also use this law to create fatalities, especially in instances of, say, demonstrations, and just rely on the law and say, you see, we are acting according to the law.
What does it say?
So what we are saying...
What does it say, that you can kill people?
No. What clause 11D of this bill provides permits the use of firearms in arresting persons perceived to be presenting danger or resisting arrest, without making reference to what kind of force and that is allowable and permissible.
So a bad leader could shoot people.
Yeah, could choose and say, you see, the law allows me to do so. So we have a situation where increasingly government is resorting to application or use of law to repress its citizenry. So we are descending into rule by law instead of a rule of law.
Well, I wanted to ask you that you are reading my script. When does the rule of law become rule by law?
Yeah, you see, in effect, you can have bad laws. Laws that are repressing citizens, limiting rights, limiting freedoms, and they will be the law because the different actors will be guided by that law. And a bad leader who is the beneficiary of that law will insist that anybody acting contrarily is acting in breach of the law, and will cite anybody breaching that law as being either criminal or non-law abiding. So, on the other hand, rule by law means that actually the laws that will be in place will be laws that are consistent with the human rights standards, international human rights standards.
That's rule of law, not rule by law.
Yes, rule of law. And rests on the constitutional order and other basic tenets such as fair hearing and so on and so forth. So what we see is increasingly descendants from rule of law, because actually at least we have tried to build pillars. I mean, as a country that had a checkered history with a turbulent past and many violations of human rights. Yes. So I mean, having a largely progressive constitution and the putting in place certain key institutions like Uganda Human Rights Commission, trying to strengthen the judiciary. I mean, these are basic pillars that rule of law will rely on, and also essentially a good law. So a progressive constitution was a very good starting point. But what you can see, what we have done to it, we have started nibbling the good provisions within this law, within this constitution, and also enacting laws that are in sharp contrast with the good provisions that still exist, and effectively descending into rule by law rather than rule of law.
Rule of law is the enabling environment. The rule by law is using the law at all costs to get it. Sometimes not very nice. And Honorable Karuhanga, what kind of scenario would warrant this kind of bill or law?
Well, it is political uncertainty for the ruling regime. You only need to be worried of your people, of how people meet, of how people associate, how they demonstrate, how they appear in public, if you are worried of them. If you trace how this regime began, NRM encouraged, actually then it was NRA and then Australia, well NRM as well. They encouraged people to meet in their then it were RCs.
LC1.
Yes.
RCs.
Yeah, then they were resistance committees. They encouraged people to meet in their villages and have conversations about the governance of their country, about
even giving out sugar at that time.
So that's where they began from. Then along the way, we had free measures. People would speak their mind.
Those ones are now history.
Those were
Let's
closed.
talk about something else.
So those were closed. Clearly. Now eventually, full circle complete. Now we see them close complete. Now they don't want any public dialogue that is not managed, controlled, influenced by police.
Maybe you do it by
see
telepathy.
Into a police state.
I find this proposed law, this bill, so draconian that, for instance, clause 15, that the minister will decide that this place is unlawful for anybody to convene. That you empower the Minister of Internal Affairs.
What's wrong with that?
Oh, come on. Well, that means probably the opposition will never have any rally, any meeting. In fact, what this bill is...
the problem, some of them want to meet in marketplaces. People want to buy tomatoes, but these people want to demonstrate.
No, but you see, The opposition, there is no way we can demonize the acts of what the opposition at times tries to do. One, it's because they have squeezed them from no other space.
The only place is tomatoes.
Is to go to where now few people physically are.
And eat fish.
But two, they also have a right to go and eat, to go and shop. If Dr. Besigye or his lordship, the mayor of Kampala, Mr. Elias Lukwago, chooses to go to Nakasero market and people want to talk to him, he says hello to them. What's wrong with that? Now, for me, where I find the problem is that these fellows in the executive, the president and his ministers, what they are trying to achieve here,
those gentlemen and ladies,
they are trying to legitimize what they have been doing so illegally, for you to dehumanize, to torture. You know how they have been treating Dr. Besigye. They have been, they've been torturing him. They have been, and all the other demonstrators.
Yes.
So what do you do? For you, how do you justify? How do you make these acts lawful that the police has been carrying out? You bring such a weird, unfortunate bill to Parliament.
But where in the world is public order not regulated?
Oh, by the way, we say
places Gazette, you might end up in someone's garden. I don't do agriculture, but you could end up in someone's garden.
Yes, that's why there is a law on trespass.
You
see, what is interesting is that all that has been provided for. What is in this bill is what is unconstitutional. The rest has been already in the penal code, in the Police Act, in the road,
traffic,
the Traffic and Road Act. All those they have provided every other detail of all the good provisions we would need to regulate public order. What this is intended to achieve is to muzzle, to gag, to fail the opposition.
But some of them have been, you wake up in the morning, you have a vehicle parked in your car, and then you decide to walk.
By the way, whereas
and yet you are an opposition leader. Why do you go to a market when you can afford to eat at the Sheraton? You go to a market.
This could also, even this, and this is a reminder to the parliamentarians who are in the ruling party. This could also go for them.
Oh, really?
Yes, because
even though you wear a yellow tie.
Yes, you've seen those who tend to be objective. They have now even reached the point of dismissing them. So if they can dismiss you for questioning the colleagues who are in the NRM fellows who are corrupt, for instance, then how about when such a law is in press? They will certainly use it to make sure that you have no political mobilization, to make sure that they are in full control of whichever conversation you have.
Muhamed, where is this all going to end? You people are so much opposed to this law, and yet some of us want peace.
We also want peace. And we would like to see a dispensation that creates public order. We are interested in a situation that makes the public space accessible and also well utilized. And that's why we would be happy to see a situation where the different stakeholders have well-defined responsibilities. That is fine. And we are worried of a situation where some of the stakeholders shift their responsibilities onto probably more vulnerable group of stakeholders. Like I was mentioning a while ago about the convener. So we are not opposed to public order management. What we are saying is that the current bill has provisions that will undermine access and better utilization of the public space, and is likely to create a situation that will strain public order rather than enable it. So the law that we would be comfortable with is a law that is facilitative and regulatory, not prohibitive, and a law that does not undermine human rights, and a law that will further enable the growth of democracy in this country. What we are seeing is a law that is arresting the process of further democratization of this country. And
it's arresting?
Yes, effectively doing so.
How is the operating environment for human rights defenders generally?
Well, the operating environment for human rights defenders is not dissimilar. Actually, one can say that the operating environment for human rights defenders is like the forerunner of this kind of situation we're having. We had a law passed, the NGO Act, Act, which had a number of provisions that were problematic as far as we are concerned.
What are those?
One of the provision is a provision that provides for dual liability. That actually officers of NGOs will be criminally liable for offences committed by the NGO. In other words, that provision is standing in breach of the constitutional provision that provides for presumption of innocence. Now here, you're becoming vicariously liable, vicariously criminally liable for offences committed by the organization. Then the other.
What exactly does that mean? Give us a scenario.
I mean, an organization, for example. I mean, as an officer, you are recruited to do ABCD for the organization. I mean, you have very specific duties and responsibilities given to you by the organization. You are an agent of that organization. So, in other words, the principal is the organization, and becomes
it's not necessarily you.
Yes, but here it is saying that you are.
It's a bit like a police officer.
Yes,
carrying out the duties as a policeman and then holding him criminally.
Yeah. So we have a problem with that. And then the other very illustrative provision that I can flag off relates to the regulation, the NGO regulation. Regulation 13 provides that no NGO will be allowed to make direct contact with the rural community unless explicit written permission.
What do you do if you want to?
Written permission of the RDC secured a week ahead of such encounter. So you can see a state that is scared of engagement, that is scared of citizenry coming or liaising or acting. Yeah. So keep the NGOs away from the people. So the presumption here is that actually NGOs live outside the communities and therefore need a visa to go to the people.
Visa for the NGOs?
Yes, visa.
To the people in Bunambobi, in Mbale, the slopes of the
Yeah, so that kind of scenario is very illustrative, and it shows why actually now they are raiding this other space for other actors as well. So it is a slippery slope that we are seeing. Yes, and sometimes what is problematic in this country is that when they come for this group, the other group is unbothered because they are not part of that group.
And they came for so
then we'll have a situation where the whole country has descended.
Anyway, well, let's hear from the listeners. This is Spectrum on Radio, and you can call in now. Our number is 0414-348-111, 0312260390, 0312261390. When you call in, please tell us your name and where you are calling from. Visas for NGOs to talk to the community. So you want to give them a borehole, you need a visa from the Inspector General Police.
The RDC in the case of the NGOs.
Yeah, there seems to be a fault with the lines. It's going to be rectified and then you'll be able to. Well, in the meantime, we can continue. So where did it all start? This government has been much beloved up to the year 2011 when it got an overwhelming majority. Why do you think it's lost popularity?
Well, overstaying.
They got a big victory in 2011. 2 years ago.
Well, that victory is largely questionable. First of all, officially declared by the Electoral Commission, 42% of Ugandans never voted. And you can imagine by the time the Electoral Commission declares that 42% never voted, you can figure out what percentage could actually have voted of the registered voters. So there is there is high resentment. The dissenting voices have become too big for this government, and simply because, one, it has indeed overstayed, but two, it is extremely undemocratic and it's corrupt. It's just a corrupt government.
It's individuals who, some of them, and the ones who are corrupt are already in jail. What are you talking about?
How many are in jail and how many have been convicted?
Let's hear from the listeners. Your name, sir? Yes, Moses.
You know, where I'm wondering, someone said that it is a undemocratic government. If you look at democratic, you are the problem. First of all, you use NGOs as platforms, as conduits. You are politicians in disguise as NGOs. First of all, most of these NGOs are of mafias who are there to extort. So no government can allow you to use NGOs to tarnish its name. It knows what you do at the ground. So, you know, because of the government is corrupt, and when you are corrupt, first of all, you see this work to workers thing. You have been calling this white money. You are doing nothing, totally nothing, and it is better to register you. You are mafias. We are tired of you.
Mafias.
Thank you.
Mafias should be deregistered loud and clear. Spectrum, hello. Okay, let's hear Mr. Ndifuna. Why should we keep you mafias who are...
The last time I checked, a reference about mafia was in regard to the executive, that there were mafias within the executive.
Spectrum, hello. Let's hear from the listeners before you a little bit more about
hello.
it. Yes, your name?
Yeah, my name is Tony.
Come again?
My name is Tony.
Yes, Tony.
And I would like just to correct that gentleman who has been responding. I think it's not fair to say that NGOs are doing nothing in this country and that NGOs are mafias. I think such a blanket statement is unfortunate. There are some parts of this country which have been sustained by NGOs during the times of insurgency, times of difficulty like Karamoja, like northern Uganda, and we cannot say that NGOs have done nothing. So I think that gentleman should be corrected. NGOs are bona fide members of society. They are health groups, they are civil society, they support government where government can't meet its needs. In education, the best schools in this country began not by government, but they began by NGOs and private entities.
Okay, Spectrum, hello.
Hello?
Yes, sir, your name?
This is Noah Eno.
Yes, Eno.
Of course, I want to thank very much the gentleman in the studio, and probably say that of course we are in a transition, and we all know our history in the history of this country. I would very much prefer those gentlemen to discuss these challenges in relation to our history. And of course, the NRM has done a lot, and the challenges which are there, the challenges really we would love all of us to of course to overcome. But Mr. Edmond.
All right. Okay, Enoch, thanks. Spectrum, hello.
I'm Moses, I'm back. I am sober. In fact, in Uganda, according to the total number of NGOs we have, apart from promoting homosexuality and lesbianism, and carrying out to political clandestine missions,
including Boahos,
the sitting government. Most of them, I'm not saying 100%.
All right, okay. Spectrum, hello. Yes, sir, your name? Yes, you're live on air. Your name? You're live on air. Your name? Okay, this is Spectrum. Your name, sir?
Yes, it is Samuel. What movement is not trying to look what it doesn't know. I think these are people who have been infected with the NRM virus. You cannot say Yes, I think such people should not take a platform to express their views on such platform. It's really, really wrong, and let's go to the
Thank you. Okay. Let's get back to the studio. Honorable, well, let's hear from you, Muhamed. So you're not mafias?
Yeah, we are not. But society has its
the mafias are elsewhere.
The vice president said in his interview, the former vice president, even when he was vice president, he said
at that time,
yes, that the mafias are actually within NRM, in the cabinet itself. So I think he's misplaced, misinformed. And
so you don't think they're not in the NGO world?
No, the NGO actually is probably the only space that has remained in this country, which has some democratic and free space where people can express their views and research. Also, they are very useful in terms of availing facts and statistics.
And then the other thing is that raising these concerns does not mean that we are not cognizant of the milestones registered over the years. We have actually at the very beginning mentioned that, for example, one of the pillars is the constitution, which was very progressive, and the creation of certain institutions. And our concern is the deliberate effort to weaken and disable and make it weaker, as seen from efforts to denigrate and debase the constitution, as seen by the sort of legislation that are coming. All these stand in sharp contrast with what this regime did in the first years. So we are mindful and indeed recognize the milestones scored. The concern here is that whereas we raised pillars for democracy, human rights, good governance, they are now the threat that the regime seems to be tackling. In other words, democracy is the challenge, is the enemy that must be tackled. Whereas at the very beginning,
in the past,
yes, the challenge was how do we construct institutions and raise legal frameworks that will guarantee or promote democracy, human rights, and good governance. Now that we had the semblance of rights and semblance of good governance and semblance of democracy, and an increasing clamor for more, that then became the threat, the new threat for the regime, especially after staying a little longer. And now the challenge is regime security and survival as opposed to further democratization. And that's where we are.
Honorable Karuhanga, what's the problem with democracy in Africa?
Well, Africa actually has no problem with democracy. It's the leaders who have the problem with the democracy in Africa.
What kind of leaders?
The leaders that are not only corrupt, but they think that running a country is like running a family. That you must be, when you become a president, one, you serve with impunity, but also you don't want to leave power. That's why it's not extremely surprising that this law which is being proposed by President Museveni's regime is only in Zimbabwe, where Mugabe has been serving for over 30 years. So it's
only 33 years.
Yeah, well, it's not only 30. Yeah, well, you can only say only 30. I haven't made 33, so you can imagine being a president for that long. So the democracy, Africans actually, even by nature, we are so democratic. I remember reading a very interesting book when those early days people would come together, and even where there would be a meeting where even children and the women and men would sit, yes, and have a conversation, and they would listen to everyone's view. So, but you can see today, we have moved so far away, and we are trying indeed to use the laws to legitimize what is not only draconian, not only unconstitutional, but is inherently unacceptable. That even the African person before the so-called civilization
did not accept.
He did not accept.
We have to go. When do leaders become rulers?
This is the point. This is the point when leaders become rulers, where they think the only way to survive is to use rule by law instead of rule of law. So that you make all laws, as many laws as you can, to survive as a regime. But that won't help them.
We have to go. Thank you very much, leader, dear guests. Honorable Gerald Karuhanga, Western Uganda Youth MP. Thank you for coming. Spectrum tonight. Mr. Muhamed Ndifuna, Chief Executive Officer of HURINET, the Human Rights Network. Thank you for tuning in. I've been your host, Edmond. Spectrum will be back tomorrow. Up next is the news in English.
When I'm using some other internet, no work done. I tell you, so slow. I wait, see my money going, I doze, see grass growing. But when I use Orange Internet, I do anything I want. Poke, tag, chat, check scores, open pages, close pages, upload, download, left load, right load. I can browse like never before.
At Orange, we know your internet needs change every time. That's why we bring you the new generation internet that's always on with unmatched countrywide coverage and speeds of up to 42 Mbps. Stream and download like never before. Simply buy the 42 Mbps modem and get started. Another first from Orange. Internet experience changes with Orange. Today changes with Orange.
Sunlight, it's freshness that stays with you all day. The fragrance that lasts.
Try the new range of Sunlight 2-in-1 washing powders for sensational cleaning and all-day fragrance.
Excuse me, what is this 300 shillings on my bill for?
That is for the tinted candles, madam.
And this 100 shillings?
That is for the air conditioning.
And this 200 shillings?
For the blue walls, ma'am.
I can't believe this!
Why pray for what you don't use or ask for? That's why we at Standard Chartered are introducing the Easy Go account, the first current account of its kind that gives you complete control of your banking charges. For more details, visit a Standard Chartered branch or call 0414-340077.
Would you like to leave me a tip, please?